Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and welcome into our Wednesday Care 11 extravaganza. -1 Reggie Wilson. He's going to the Timberwolves game in LA. We'll forgive him for that. We've still got Vikings talk for the next hour or so. We've got Julia, we've got Ron, we've got myself, and we've got a big week to review. Last show we were still speculating on who the Vikings would take in the draft. It was Donovan Jackson. We'll talk about Donovan. We'll talk about our favorites of the rest of the class, plus the addition of Sam Howell, the extension of Andrew Van Ginkel, and the comments of one J.J. McCarthy yesterday at TCO Performance Center. Before we meet the crew, I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Let's meet today's panel. Julia, take it away.
Hi, Julia Daniels. Sounding a little rough this morning. Getting over a cold. I will say, I'm already a fan of Donovan Jackson because he has a cat named Leonardo DiCaprio. And if you guys consistently watch our show, you know that I have my own little fluffer that likes to pop in and steal the show. So we've got something in common. Green flag if somebody likes cats, always in my book.
I don't know if I can top that one. I'm Ron Johnson, former Gophers and NFL wide receiver. I just want to talk about the fact that I knew Donovan Jackson was coming to Minnesota and got it right again. That's 4 years of doing this. Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, Christian Darrisaw, and now Donovan Jackson. So let's hope next year. I don't know next year. I got to start looking at the college guys now, but we got to talk about that.
I'd like some stock market tips too, Ron, if you could go into your crystal ball and give me a little hand with that. And I'm going to bring up too how the Vikings have the ultimate continuity set up on their offensive and defensive lines. That's coming up later in the show. But Julia, I mean, big draft for you. Besides the cat thing, your other favorite team gets your favorite prospect, Tyler Booker. So it worked out great for you. Booker goes at 12. The Vikings get the other guard, Donovan Jackson, at 24. Looking back, based on who was available, you know, the Vikings opted not to trade. They stayed put. Did they make the move you would have made with that pick of Donovan Jackson?
You asking me?
I'm asking you.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about, I mean, Ron and I both agreed that the trenches is probably the number one place that they should be looking in the draft. And if you have the option to bring in a national champion guy who's also, I mean, this is something that we talked about, somebody that has flexibility to play different positions on the line too. And that's something that he not only displayed in his last season at Ohio State, but excelled at. And somebody also too, if you just take a look at his resume, he's not just like amazing on the field too, but this guy like got things done in the classroom. He's clearly got a high football IQ. He knows what's going on, but also like he's a huge guy. And they needed some youth on that offensive line too. They needed somebody young to come in that they could invest in, develop, and that would also fit the quote unquote culture that they're trying to build in the Vikings facility. But yeah, I think that they made the right choice. This is Kwesi, when he talked right after the pick, he said that this is a guy that they had been watching, not just this year, but for years at Ohio State. It's somebody that they've had their eye on, and they were super confident in their pick. And everyone asked about, you know, like, how did you feel about having 4 picks? Did you ever think about trading so that you could have more? This is just, you know, on the night of the first round. And he said, no, this is something that they felt good about doing and making the decision in. And I think that they made the right choice in picking up Donovan. It's about time. I mean, I don't know. If you add up the average age of the O-line right now, I feel like it would be like mid to late 20s or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's about time they brought in somebody that's fresh out of college that they can spend some time with. And they've got it's just kind of a win-win situation because you have so many veterans in there too. So it's not just up to the coaching staff to help develop this guy. But yeah, big fan of the pick and big fan of the Leonardo DiCaprio. I just love it.
And Ron, you love this pick because this was your guy. You call it early on, a week before, more than a week before the draft, you thought Donovan Jackson was a name to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You nailed it. The Vikings pulled the trigger. How pumped were you when that name got called?
Oh, huge. For everybody in the stadium that was standing around, because they were standing around the set when we were doing the show, myself, Pete Bursage, with Ahmad Hicks and Pierre Nugent. And then you had another set where we were doing it with Ben Lieber, Paul Allen, and the Vikings had their camera. And so when I went over there with the Vikings camera, of course, people are listening and they're standing around trying to get intel. And Ben Lieber's over there talking. And I was the only one that said Donovan Jackson, which felt great. I'm like, everybody's on this Gray Zabel, and they were, talking about, well, every guard's going to be gone because Julia's guy. We know he was going to go earlier than the Vikings would pick. And so, everybody was like using the names, nothing against it, but using the names they kept seeing on TV. Donovan Jackson was not a name. He was a second-round pick. But I said that on the show. I said, if you want him, and if you know he fits your offense, why play the cat and mouse game? Nothing against cats. Love them. Tom and Jerry fan. But why play the cat and mouse game if you could potentially lose him? Like, I think Shedeur Sanders was a cat and mouse game for the Browns. And we maybe talk about that a little later or a different show, but like I've talked to some people now about it, and we just interviewed Kobe and Kalen King, and I talked to them off air and some other people. And so like I've heard some stories now of what happened with Shedeur, and I'm like, oh, this makes total sense. And so why play that game though, where somebody else might scoop him up if you need him at left guard or right guard? And the only thing about Donovan Jackson is if he is going to play left guard, because that's what he played in college, and Will Fries, as a veteran, probably can move back and forth. The left guard has a lot of responsibility with getting the offense set. Because if you notice when you watch the Vikings, offensive guard is the guy that stands up. Quote unquote, the Omaha call comes from the guard. He's letting the quarterback know, okay, we are good. We now have identified the mic. We've identified the front. We agree with your call. Boom, he looks back, give him the call. JJ McCarthy does his deal. Boom, ball is snapped. So can a rookie come in and do that? I don't know. We got to get Randall McDaniel on, former Vikings. We've had him on before, former Vikings guard, and he talked about Ed Ingram. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. Now let's get him in to talk about Will Fries and how hard is it for an offensive guard to kind of take on that leadership role next to the center, because a lot of teams, and maybe the Vikings change it. They do have a veteran center now, and maybe they didn't trust Bradbury to do it. And so we'll see what Kevin O'Connell does, but I love the pick. It's a plug-and-play pick. You said that before, Sam. Like, first-round picks the last couple of times here have not played right away. Lewis Seen, why am I forgetting the guy's name already?
Turner,
Dallas Turner. Man, it's a shame what happens when you don't do a lot. But Dallas Turner, no, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot going on with this draft. Like, there's a lot going on with this draft. I mean, I admit that to Sam. We forgot about Harrison Phillips. We were talking about Javon Hargrave and all these other guys, Will Allen so much, John Allen so much. We forgot about, like, we haven't talked about Harrison Phillips, and we forgot about Gink. And look at him. He just re-signed. So I'd say this is a perfect plug-and-play pick for Kwesi for a first-round pick. Let's just hope it works. Because if it doesn't work, again, people are going to come back to, man, see, we could have waited to the second round and got him. So, but I like the pick.
Yeah. If you trade back, which a lot of people wanted,
yep,
the likelihood of finding a plug-and-play guard is very low with the way that the board looked in this particular draft. There were good offensive linemen early, not as many in the middle portions. So if you trade back, might not have a plug-and-play guard. Okay, go with Blake Randall. I don't know if there's anyone that you would draft if you trade back into the second round. There aren't many that could have been plug-and-play week one. I mean, cornerback, I think some would argue you need, and left guard. You're pretty much set everywhere else.
Yep.
This is a pick that solidifies. It's the final piece of the trenches that are completely fortified now. Completely fortified for multiple years. You've got Gink, Hargrave, Phillips, O'Neal, and Kelly. And again, these are the 5 offensive linemen and your 5 primary defensive linemen. Hargrave, Phillips, Gink, O'Neal, and Kelly signed through 2026. Jonathan Allen, Jonathan Grenard signed through 2027. Darisaw, Fries, and now Donovan Jackson signed through 2029. Unbelievable continuity they've set up in the trenches, which is awesome. And I think this maximizes a window of time here, the next 2 years, where you can really take a legitimate shot at a Super Bowl. And we'll get into JJ McCarthy as well and his comments and how he's shaping up after he spoke yesterday. But that's kind of unprecedented. in this era of short contracts and player movement in the league, to have that type of continuity and widespread continuity across your offensive line, across your defensive line, this roster is set up beautifully for the next several years. It's really incredible what Kwesi has done. So you like the pick, Donovan Jackson. I think we like it universally. Let's get into the best of the rest after a very short pause on the Minnesota Football Party. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, so are the NHL playoffs. And at FanDuel, you can get in the action with $250 in bonus bets. If you're a new customer, make your first bet $5. If it wins, you land $250 in bonus bets. And I love the way FanDuel does it. You can spend however much of that $250 at whatever pace you want. You can put it on the futures. You can put it on conference championships. You can do like a points, rebounds, assist prop of Anthony Edwards. It's really fun to put together the in-game parlays as well. If the game's going on live, you can take those adjusted lines, put together a ticket that can win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Make every moment more at FanDuel. All right. I gave an assignment prior to the show. We're talking about the rest of the Vikings draft. That was Ty Felton, third round. Reggie Wilson, who's gone. I gave him Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. We'll have to talk about him collectively. Ron, wanted you to talk about future show guest on your show, Kobe King, and then I'll talk about Gavin Bartholomew. Julia, tell us why Ty Felton is a good pick for the Vikings. Make the argument.
Ty Felton is fast. He ran a 4.37 40. That's the main strength that he has is his speed. And this is funny when he got drafted, our producer was freaking out because this is how it always works out. For those that don't know, in television, you obviously have really hard deadlines when it comes to being on air. And for some reason, especially when it comes to the Vikings, they always pick or have something going on right when you need to be on air. So they picked Ty Felton right when Will and I were going on air to do our Sports Extra show on Friday night at like 10:20 or something like that.
The last pick of the day, right? I think it was the very last pick of the entire day.
Yeah. So we were just waiting because they traded back, and then we're like, okay, great, this is perfect. I think whenever you have been through this so many times, you tend to not stress about it just as much because you're human at the end of the day. And if your audience is watching you and look up stuff on the internet while you're on air because you're trying to relay information to them, so be it. But our producer was very frustrated. Anyways, that was the main thing that we were looking at was like he has he's pretty good at separation, which we know like Jordan Addison, that's one of his strengths too. I was not surprised that they picked a receiver at that spot. I figured they were probably going to go for a receiver or something like that, just for a little bit of depth. Also special teams. They need that with special teams too, as a guy to come in. One thing I will say that everyone wrote on his draft profile was he tends to drop the ball a little bit, which he's a receiver. So probably that's something that's got to be worked out. Another thing was they were a little bit worried about his aggression, but I think that that's something that this receiving group doesn't have a problem with. And so that should be something that can be taught to him when it comes to rookie minicamp and training camp and this, that, and the other, because, I mean, take a look at Justin Jefferson and the aggression that he has on the field, and the hits that he takes too. So I think this is a great pick. The main thing is he's able to separate. He's able to get off pretty fast. And that's the main thing that he's going to bring to this receiver room. It's a pretty fast receiver room as it is, but Jalen Naylor, they call him Speedy for a reason, and maybe he's going to have some competition here or something like that.
Yeah, you've got a guy named Speedy. You've got Rondale Moore, who's when healthy, one of the biggest yak receivers in the NFL. Now you've got Felton. Jordan Addison can fly, and Justin Jefferson's not too slow either. That is a fast room. And I think that we got to be patient too with Ty Felton. Like Jalen Naylor didn't really come into his own until year 3. Right, with injuries and kind of getting blocked on the depth chart. So yeah, let's let it play out with Ty Felton.
I think
Ron,
sometimes people tend
yeah.
to also just downplay these receivers, especially in Minnesota, because you have a guy like Justin Jefferson and then a guy backing him up in Jordan Addison, and these are two of the best receivers in the league. And so sometimes receivers get a little bit of a bad rep because look at the comparison that they're right next to.
Yeah, it's hard to flourish when you have two dudes taking up 200 targets on the year. Ron, I gave you Kobe King. You talked to him yesterday, so you've got a pretty good opinion on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, so Kobe King, and I said it last year, if you remember, with Kalen King, and again, Big Ten guys, and he ended up going to the Packers. He was a late round pick as well, and I just looked at the Vikings late round picks. If you're going to have all these late round picks, why not add a potential cornerback / safety with versatility from the Big Ten that's going to end up being like a potential Jordan Houghton, Eric Murray type guy from the Gophers, the guys that kind of hang around, stay on the team, make the team, don't do a ton, but they're very consistent on special teams, very consistent in coverage. And that's what Kalen was last year. Kobe, I feel like it's like a Bart Scott trajectory. So if you go back to Bart Scott in 2002, went to the Ravens, then ended up going to the Jets, being a star. He's known best for the can't wait, going into to Foxborough to play Tom Brady. That was the big, Bart Scott moment. But Kobe King reminds me of that. One, state champion wrestler. So when you talk about leverage, getting low, being able to get up under blocks, you watch his tape. We watched him play the Gophers. I love the story he told too, and we'll air that on Tuesday, about how him and his brother were committed to Penn State and watching the Minnesota Penn State game because they were like, look, if they beat Minnesota, they're going to the national championship. So yeah, let's tune in. And we know what happened on ESPN, but we'll talk more about that with those guys on the show. But yeah, he's a really good interior linebacker that can also rush from the edge. And so again, you watch he ran a 4.6 40. So not a slow guy, not fast, but not slow. Definitely can get sideline to sideline, but he's a banger. He's a guy that's going to stick his head in there. He's like Blake Cashman. Like that's, and so you look at Ivan Pace, more of your sideline to sideline guy. You look at Blake as your Mo, who's kind of, hitting the head, jamming, getting up in there. You now have another guy in Kobe King that you can bring in because Brian Asamoah is a sideline to sideline guy. Eric Wilson, we don't know what he's going to be in his late stage of his age. So Kobe King kind of gets plugged in as an additional guy that can come in and be like a backup to Blake Cashman and do exactly what Blake Cashman does. And I think that's the key. They didn't have a linebacker behind Blake. They had guys fill in. We know that last year. What's his name? But he's gone now. He went to the Browns.
Yep, he went to
Hill. Yep, he went to the Browns, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember, but yeah, that's possible.
I feel like Stefanski keeps stealing Vikings, but he left, and then so now you need that guy, and so I think Kobe King has a really good chance of making this roster. And I love we'll talk more about it, but I love the conversation he had with Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, and then the Brian Flores conversation behind the scenes. So it was fun, but it was fun to get in touch with him and his dad and his brother, and hopefully I pray he makes the team because now we have a legit connection of a guy. And I've already talked to his mom. His mom texted me and gave me some intel on him as well. We know he's a mama's boy. So that's always good for keeping a guy, from doing anything stupid. When mom is first, you don't really see those guys making big mistakes. And so they both kind of talked about that. Like growing up in Detroit, he's the guy that's learned from his mistakes when he was young. And, he has parents that have told them, stay out of trouble, stay out of trouble, stay out of trouble. So I think this could be a really good community guy as well.
Yeah, very cool. That's a great interview, and make sure to check it out Tuesday. Let me tell you about Gavin Bartholomew. Gavin Bartholomew, 6th round tight end. Highly athletic. Very good tester. 4.7, which for a tight end, 6'5", 250, pretty fast relative to his peers. Extremely good shuttle and 3-cone drills. Great vertical, great broad jump, just great athletic tools altogether. Watched a little bit of his tape. I think he's pretty tough after the catch. I like him falling forward. I like him breaking tackles. I think he can make a guy miss. He's athletic and strong when carrying the ball. Don't know what kind of blocker he's going to be in the NFL. I think that's going to be a skill that he's going to have to perfect. And I see a path for him to make the team. The Vikings have Josh Oliver, obviously, as their tight end too. They've got an open competition for tight end 3, and it's probably going to come down to the UDFAs against Gavin Bartholomew. And the UDFAs, that's Ben Urasek and Bryson Nesbitt out of North Carolina. I think that's an open competition. I think Gavin Bartholomew probably has the inside track to be your third tight end. Going to have to play special teams, going to have to show he can block. But I like his athletic traits. And I like him as, Johnny Munt found a way to get passes in Kevin O'Connell's offense. Johnny Munt, because he proved he could reliably set up against a block, he could run block, he could protect the passer a little bit. And as a result, he got rewarded with some targets, right? There'd be a couple Johnny Munt targets every game. That could be Gavin Bartholomew. Maybe not this year, maybe it's down the road, but I think he has a future. Ron, anything on Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins? Since Reggie's gone, what do you think Reggie would say about Tyrion?
Well, he'd probably say something like, well, no. Not gonna do a Reggie impression. No, so again, Dawkins is just another piece of the puzzle. I don't really know where he's gonna fit in, but his ceiling is higher than his production. When you think about his ceiling, and that's what I keep reading about, he's new to the position, or new to like this type of competition to the position, not a lot of starts, but comes from a sticker school. When you come from a helmet sticker school, like, you tend to know they've been at least coached right. They've been taught right, and they've played against some of the best competition. Nothing against some of these mid-majors, Buffalo and so on and so forth, because we know like Khalil Mack coming out of Buffalo still was a beast. We know Flacco coming out of Delaware still became a beast. What's his name? Carson Wentz coming out of NDSU, still a beast. So I know Christian Watson, NDSU. We know those schools can do it, but if you go across all the rosters in the NFL, you have way more Big Ten and SEC guys on every roster across the board, and so that's what's crazy about it. He's one of those schools, and again, everybody keeps saying he hasn't touched his ceiling yet. Like and I hate this analogy, but the analogy I keep seeing is his ceiling is much higher than his floor. And I'm like, what? Like, what does that even mean? But what they're saying is the distance between where he's at to his floor and his ceiling, there's a bigger gap, meaning he has a lot of room to get better. Where some guys, because of their weight, speed, height, whatever, they're maximizing. They're like, this is about as far as he's going to go. This kid's potential is infinite. And that's why being around John Allen, being around Javon Hargrave, being around Harrison Phillips, and then, of course, Brian Flores, figuring out, how do I use this guy? If I'm going to use him and he makes the roster, how do I use this guy? And so I think a helmet sticker guy is always a good one to go with. Like, you can't go wrong there.
Yeah. I don't know how much tape you watched of him, Ron. Big dude. I mean, he is
big,
strong, plays really big, can move inside, outside, drives people back, gets off blocks. Really like the way he looks on film, at least in the good plays.
The one thing I'll say, though, too, to what you're saying, Sam, is if you watch Georgia football, Alabama football, Texas football, Michigan even, a lot of those schools don't play selfless football. And this is not a knock. When I say selfless, meaning Aaron Donald at Pittsburgh, go back and watch Pitt football. They did not let Aaron Donald get loose a lot. They were just like, look, help us out. Take on 3 guys, because they knew they didn't have a lot of pieces. Georgia has so many pieces. You don't have to play. Like, you could play for yourself, because you're like, look, he's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to win. He's going to, like, you got so many bodies at Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Michigan, like Mason Graham and what's his name? Kenneth Grant. You know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you get 2 first rounders on your defensive line. Georgia, so when you look at that, the amount, I mean, Georgia, when Lewis Cine came out, they had 8 first rounders or 7 first rounders on that team. Alabama, they just showed the Texas running back room. Every single Texas running back from when Bijan Robinson was there is now in the NFL. Like, that's nuts. That's great recruiting. So when I say that, I mean, like, he hasn't learned how to play selfless football, which means as big as he is, he probably can just take on 2 to 3 guys and let Cashman run free, or let Ivan Pace run free untouched and get the tackle. So I think that's what Flores is going to have to teach him. Like, hey, this is how you play in the NFL, because these guys are big and strong too. But hey, you're bigger, and this is how you can help us out. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing, if they, what happens with him.
So beyond the 5 draft picks, Vikings added another body, a pretty important one, QB2 for now, Sam Howell. They moved back 30 picks with the Seahawks. They pick up Sam Howell for 1 year and $1 million. Young, affordable, Sam Howell. Last year, Julia, we sat here, and most of us, I think, kind of, I don't know, criticized is the right word, but we weren't optimistic about a quarterback acquisition named Sam. And now we're in the same boat. Sam Howell is in the building after really a tough career with the Commanders. Not a great performance in his 1 year as their starter. and now he's the QB2. Is this a good enough option for the Vikings if something goes wrong with J.J. McCarthy?
If Nick Mullins is a good enough option to be the backup, yes. Sam Howell. I would argue, Sam Howell's younger, but he has more experience as a starter than Nick Mullins has. Like he understands the pressure that goes into this. I think we've also just learned to trust this coaching staff too. The main issue that he had with the Commanders is taking too many sacks. Right? Mm-hmm. Which is something that's pretty obvious to point out, and something that if any quarterback coaching staff is going to be able to fix a quarterback, it's the one that we've got up here in the Twin Cities. I think this is a great option, and I also think it's he's very young for how many years he's been in the NFL too, which is optimistic for this organization too. What is he, 24?
Yeah,
24, 3 years in the league already. Starting experience, granted, not a great year as a starter, but that experience in and of itself is priceless. And so I think, this is a great acquisition for them. Did we see it really coming? No, none of us were like, yeah, we'll probably go pick up Sam Howell from the Seahawks. No, we didn't expect that. Or I didn't expect that. But I do think that it is a great option for JJ to have as a backup. And I think it just all comes down to Sam Howell has the tools. He just, I don't think has been given the opportunity to grow in a way that he can. And so, I've got faith in the guy. And I think that, the Vikings can maybe rest a little easier knowing that they have a guy who's gotten that experience under his belt already and is still so young too. Because that makes him about the same age as JJ too, which, is something that to say there's something to say for that too.
It's not your typical, veteran backup though, Ron,
No.
right? 24 with
yeah.
1 year of experience. You mentioned you think there could be another move coming.
Yeah, I think there's still another move potentially coming. The what I'm hearing is money. The guy they want, is it worth it? But here's the thing. Sam Howell is a pick up that doesn't make JJ McCarthy uncomfortable. I think this is part of it too. Is like JJ McCarthy needs to be 100. If he is your guy, and again, I'm getting goosebumps now just about to say it. I watched more JJ Michigan film last night because I don't know if you guys saw the report that if JJ McCarthy was in this year's draft, he'd have been the clear-cut number 1 pick. He was spinning the damn ball. Like, that boy can spin the ball. Like, when he got to let it go. So here's the thing. Roman Wilson, Ronnie Bell, some of the guys he had in the time he was there, they weren't the best. He didn't have like Braylon Edwards or Calvin Johnson or, like Chris Carter. Like, he had a bunch of guys that like he didn't have Rashad Bateman. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have a go-getter that was going to be a first-round pick. But he made these guys 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks in the draft because of him. Loveland. Like he benefited from having JJ McCarthy. Like, so when I watched him spin a couple of those deep posts, when I watch him throw a couple, like you watch Jador Sanders roll out and throw the ball. Nothing against him, not hating. It's wobbly. It's not, he doesn't have the body control to throw that going to his right, going to his left, and still slinging it. JJ McCarthy had the exact play. He got flushed out the pocket. I don't know what, I think it was his bowl game maybe because they had the little patches. He slings it downfield to number 8 in the post. It was masterful. Like, I don't know what kind of cameras they're using at these games now. This is getting nuts. Like that thing was able to focus on the spin of the ball and travel with it. So it must have been the sky cam, but he can sling the ball. So I think also like Kevin O'Connell knows, like if his knee is fine, we're good. Like I did this with Sam Darnold. Like, come on now. Like if you ever wanted to be confident, like I feel like making Sam Darnold $100 million has to have Kevin O'Connell walking past the mirror every morning like he just, did 315 pounds, 10 times or something, and like looking at his chest and, oiling up his body. Like that's what that should feel like. Like that should feel like Thanos getting that 3rd Infinity Stone. So that's where I think the Sam Howell things come from. It's like, let's get a veteran in here. Let's get a guy in here that, like, if JJ can't go right away, we got a guy. But I think there's still conversations out there. Not saying it's Rodgers, but I think there's conversations out there with people to say, hey, how much? Like, look, man, we don't have that. Like, can we get you for this? Like, we just need you to be a true backup veteran to come in and talk to our guy. Also, let's not forget the Browns got 27 quarterbacks. So, My guess is something has to go there too. Like, I don't know if Flacco, all those guys make it. Like, I don't know if Flacco's the guy and then Shadour's the backup with Dylan Gabriel. Like, who knows what? Like, I don't know what they're going to do. So again, it could be a Flacco release and then the Vikings pick him up. Like, I think there's something else coming, but no, I think Sam Howell is not a scary thing for JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy feels like right now, this is my backup. I'm QB1. This is my backup. Let's go into OTAs because Kobe King told us they'll be there the 8th. So he flies in on the 8th and then they get going. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. It's a non-threatening move. They've got 4 quarterbacks. They got Brett Rippon. They got Sam Howell. They got
I keep forgetting about Brett Rippon.
Brett Rippon is still in the building. Maybe we're underrating him. Maybe the Vikings absolutely are in love. This is just further proof that the Vikings do not see wins and losses. They don't even see stats when it comes to quarterbacks. They just see traits, right? They see arm strength, mobility, like potential accuracy. They don't care that he threw 21 interceptions. They don't care that they won, 5-6 games the one year that he started. They just see sort of the tools that they can work with and mold. And if we see, I hope we don't see Sam Howell. If we do see Sam Howell and he is good, this is confirmation that there is something special in the water with KOC and quarterbacks, because this is not your typical veteran backup that you bring in to support a rookie who's coming off a knee injury.
Kevin O'Connell was the backup.
Kevin O'Connell
or Josh McCown. Yeah, Josh McCown's waiting for his moment.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm sitting here thinking everyone's talking about veteran. You need a veteran voice in there. I'm like, doesn't they have 2 veterans already talking to
Josh
him every
McCown?
single day?
Yeah, Josh McCown just got done playing like 4 years ago. So technically he does have the veteran like talk through with the quarterback. So it's an embarrassment of riches with the mindset of Josh McCown. And he's been a backup numerous places. He's been a starter. The one thing about JJ McCarthy too, that shows he's trying to be like really insert himself as QB1. He actually called Kobe King. So like to call the fit, like I get called in the first round guard. Like, that's your guard. Hey, man, welcome to the team. I'm looking forward to working with you. I see calling the tight end. Hey, man, I can't wait to get you up here for OTAs, man. We're going to let's get some throws in. Let's meet and have lunch. He called the 6th round linebacker out of Penn State. Like, he's really trying to be that captain. And I love that. Like, he called Kobe King to say, man, I remember playing you at Penn State, man. You were a beast. And they had a little conversation about that. And Kobe King said, like, that was one of the toughest assignments we had to prepare for, was against Michigan. He said we knew what we had to deal with. And that's why I think Michigan ran the ball every play in the second half, because Kobe King and them were like, look, we know what you're going to do. We're not letting you do it. And so John Harbaugh from his hotel shouldn't have been coaching, but he was. We know his text messages and talking about, hey, just run the ball. Just run the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I'm loving what I'm hearing about JJ McCarthy now, because he's becoming the leader. And he didn't even play last year, and he wants to be a leader.
And he spoke yesterday. We're going to get into that, some of his comments, and a little more clarification about his weight loss and how that progression is coming to put that weight back on. That's next. Hi, Bo. We're brought to you today by Monarch Money. Wow, Bo the cat threw me off. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where's the money? Where did it go? Well, it's dining out, it's online shopping, it's entertainment, it's mortgage, it's bills, it's any number of things. It's coffee. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It's a financial command center that gives you the tools to track your spending, to track your investments, find out exactly how money is being spent. So you've got the various buckets, might be restaurants, groceries, bills, and you can categorize the expenses and the transactions into the various buckets. You know exactly how the money is being spent. It helps you budget, helps you build wealth. You can also easily collaborate with a partner, a spouse, in the Monarch Money app, which I use daily. It's terrific. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. J.J. McCarthy is the man of the hour, and he spoke yesterday at TCO Performance Center for the first time really in months as the QB1. Stood up there, talked about embracing the pressure, and I thought, interestingly, got into his recovery from the knee. He said that he lost like 30 pounds, like 35 pounds down to 180.
You can see it.
Yeah, they showed him on the sideline last year, and people said, "Whoa, really? That's JJ? What? He looks gaunt." I mean, Ron, you're a gym guy, right? Like you go to the gym. When you don't work out for a while, do you lose weight? Like that was JJ McCarthy saying, "Hey, the inactivity, I lost all the weight because I couldn't work out on my knee. I had that setback too, and I had to sit there." Does that make sense to you that would occur?
Yes and no. So at his age, with his metabolism, yes, but you could tell that's probably his natural frame is what he looks like now. Like he's probably just a skinny Zach from Saved by the Bell surfer kid with slick back hair. He's not AC Slater. AC Slater, was a beast. Zach Morris was more of a or Screech. He was not Screech. I'm not gonna go Screech, but Zach was more of a skinny, normal size guy. And so he's just if he was a banker, if he was a teacher, if he was anything else, everybody would be like, oh, he looks good. Like, look at him. Like he's 185 pounds. Like he's 6'3". Like that's normal. Like 6'3", like me, I'm 6'3", 230. That's not the average human being. JJ McCarthy at 6'3" probably plays at 195 to 205, but that's shakes, steaks, weight room every single day, running, eating 4 to 5 times a day. Because what people don't know is, and I'm pretty sure the Vikings are on this because I've been up there and had a couple meals and I've seen the little table and stuff, and I always ask first because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm like, hey, can I go up there and get a salad? Like, cool. Because COVID made us weird, but now we're, I guess, back to normal. They didn't want us eating when the players are eating just in case. But now, so when you see it, it's like, here's your morning snacks. That could be 6 a.m., whatever. That's fruit, smoothie. Here's your actual breakfast at whatever time that is, 8 a.m. That could be pancakes, eggs, whatever. Then you got your lunch, which is Caesar salads and guacamole and rice and red beans and all this stuff. And then you go to lunch again because you got a second lunch, which is like 3 o'clock. And it's like, hey, we're just gonna have sandwiches. We're going to meetings. Grab a banana. Grab a. They have a Gatorade station at the facility where they can just go over there and get a smoothie made fresh. And then they got dinner. So you know what I mean? Like it's like I guarantee he wasn't doing all that because his body wasn't saying I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. He was just probably eating breakfast, sitting around at meetings, maybe having a couple of little pieces of candy, eating lunch like a normal human being, eating dinner, and then going to bed. Like he wasn't lifting hard. He wasn't able to run around. He wasn't able to do like squats. Like there was a lot of stuff he couldn't do. So yes. Also stress though. Let's not take the mental health and stress out of this. People stress. Like I remember I look back at pictures from COVID and I remember, and I'm not gonna tear up because me and Nate Burleson had a really good conversation about this. So during COVID, I didn't realize how stressed out I was. And I had a bald spot in my head. If you go back and look at pictures from like 2020 in videos, like I had a bald spot and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was alopecia. I didn't know what was going on. And I remember interviewing Nate Burleson for the Minnesota Vikings. And after the interview, he was like, yeah, man, like, why you keep turning? I was like, yeah, man, I got a little bald spot, man. Like, I don't know what's going on. He said, man, he's like, you're stressed out. He was like, I had that in my beard before. And I was like, dude, I had it in my beard, but it was big enough where you couldn't see it. And he told me, he's like, yeah, man, he's like, it's stress, man. He's like, it happens. He's like, when you get stressed out sometimes, man, we forget how that affects your body. And he said, your body and your chemical makeup. So I think JJ McCarthy was a little bit of stress too. That was probably stress weight that he was just losing and being a little stressed out about, like, Sam Darnold's killing it. Am I ever going to get back on the field? This was supposed to be my team. Like, there's so much going on that people forget about, man. And I joked about Wally Pipp yesterday with you, Sam, but that's real. People get hurt and they never get back. Tom Brady, like the concussion of what's his name was like Drew Bledsoe. Tom Brady like would never exist, at least in New England. Like, it was Drew Bledsoe's show. He was getting that team to a Super Bowl. He was going to win. And he even joked about it on the roast. He said it. He was like, yeah, I don't know what happened that day, but clearly you came in and won the game. Like he jokes about it now, but that bothered him. Like, that was his team. He was winning those games. And then Tom Brady just comes off the bench and is like, all right, let me go win some games for you. It was Drew Bledsoe's team. And so that's why I think JJ McCarthy probably was a little bit of stress there too.
No doubt. I mean, yeah, he could have very easily watched Sam Darnold come in and take that job from him. If Sam Darnold wins that game against the Rams, he might be the quarterback today. We don't know. But I mean, the pressure might not be done, Julia. Like, just look at what JJ McCarthy's been given with all these roster assets. He's got an offensive line to protect him. He's got 2 running backs. He's got 2 wide receivers, a tight end that's good, a defense that's good. The coaching staff's in place, the ownership, the stadium. He is inheriting this castle, right? And he's this young kid, and the team won 14 games last year, and he's now in charge in many ways of their success or failure. That's pressure. That's pressure. And he insisted yesterday that he embraces that pressure. I don't think we can really know, though, until, the rubber meets the road and he's actually in a regular season game.
Yeah, I think this is also just like the great experiment, right? Because no team has been through this with somebody with a quarterback they selected so high before. This has never in the modern draft era, this has never happened before.
Right.
So there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions obviously still to be answered. I personally think like a lot of it does come down to your mindset on things. And it seems like JJ McCarthy really prioritizes his mentality, his mental health, his headspace. And he kind of was forced. I would say he was like that before, but he was also kind of forced into that position too, because when you can't do anything else, you might as well be training your mind for what's coming next too, right? But I think that his confidence says a lot. I don't think that JJ McCarthy is stupid in any way, and I don't think that he just says things like, I know I'm ready to start lightly. I think he says it because he truly believes it. I think that something that's interesting too is obviously they've done all this VR stuff, the virtual reality things, which is something that's newer to the league, right? And because he's kind of the first quarterback being put in this particular position before, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and works for him in terms of like getting him ready for it. Because there's, to me, obviously I didn't play football, but it seems like it would be something hard to simulate. The league, the NFL, just because you always hear these guys talk about like, what was your welcome to the NFL moment, that kind of thing. And JJ's yet to experience that, but he has used a lot of like virtual reality to try and simulate what it is going to be like for himself, because that's the best that he could do while he was hurt. So I think it's a lot of unknowns still. But I do think, and this is what I've always kind of stood by since he got hurt, is if we've seen what Kevin O'Connell can do with a guy like Sam Darnold, I am excited to see what he can do with a guy who, yeah, sure, JJ McCarthy's coming off an injury, but he said himself that he feels 110% compared to what he was like before he even got injured too. So I'm excited to see what Kevin O'Connell can do with a quarterback that seemingly has all of the tools and accolades that he's looking for, and he doesn't have to necessarily like take a broken toy and fix it, so to speak. I think his confidence is warranted. And I think that you have to be confident in that too. And it's also spreading throughout the team. If you hear Josh Metellus and Brian O'Neill, Jonathan Kennard talk about this guy, they're excited about him and they are fully backing him being the starter for this team. And that says a lot because he's a lot younger than all of those guys. And the fact that they are excited about him and confident in what he can do without even seeing him play a down of actual NFL football says something, I think, because also those guys aren't just like talking to talk either. So, yeah, I think obviously there's still a lot of questions that have gone unanswered, but I think that it's okay for Vikings fans to have a little confidence in JJ McCarthy headed into the season.
Easy guy to rally around. The young kid coming off an injury, really positive attitude, easy guy to get behind. I can see that as a teammate. I can see that as a fan. Another easy guy to get behind is Andrew Van Ginkel. I think quickly becoming one of the most popular Vikings. Signs a 1-year extension, $23 million. Ron, I wouldn't have been mad if it was longer. 1-year extension, that's great. You get him through 2026 now. Stays on that defensive line. The only guy who might not like this deal is Dallas Turner. That's another year where he's kind of blocked out. Yep. But the Gink stays around for another season. I love it. Any opposition to this move?
No, I totally agree with it. I think it gives Dallas Turner another year to kind of figure out his body in the NFL, get his grown man body. Like 19, 20, 21-year-olds feel like they're men. But when you're 23, 24, 25, like something about men and that secondary strength of like having a kid and all that, like that's what Gink said, having a kid is that different strength. And so it just changes you. Your body changes, your makeup changes. And I think for Dallas Turner to really learn how to play outside linebacker, this is a good move. You're not forcing him into anything right away. Also, remember that he was a first-round pick. So as long as he's doing what the Vikings like, he's doing more than Lewis Seen did. So I think they're going to extend him that, they're going to pick up that 5th-year option for him. Like, I don't see that not happening. So I think the Vikings know that too. Like, they have time because they have that 5th-year option to pick him up since he was a first-round pick. And I think that's why I think that's why a lot of players hate that first round thing, because they're like, look, you're locking us into 5 years. Like, what if I ball out in 2 or 3 years, which is like the Jalen Hurts, the Joe Burrows, where they're like, hey, man, no, give me a new contract now. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, like all Justin Jefferson, all those guys are like, dude, I'm not doing no 5th-year option for y'all. Like, I'm a baller. And so I think for Dallas Turner, though, he hasn't shown he deserves anything more than a 5th-year option right now. Again, 2026, you got Gink through that. 2027, maybe Dallas Turner becomes the next Jonathan Kennard, and then we're looking back like, man, that was a great pick by Kwesi.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's probably a small promotion this year, Julia, for your Alabama guy, Dallas Turner. Like, I think Patrick Jones last year was essentially their 3rd pass rusher, and now he's gone. And I think Dallas can fill that spot and probably get more reps every game, more opportunities. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be another year for him to learn. And Van Ginkel, what's not to like about Andrew Van Ginkel? He intercepts the ball, creates fumbles, sacks the quarterback. He can cover tight ends. Like, he's just one of the most versatile, unique players I think I've ever seen in a Vikings uniform.
And Brian Flores loves that. He wants versatility in his defense more than just about anything else. Versatility and aggression. We got those 2 things, which is funny because if you ever talk to Andrew Van Ginkel, he's the most soft-spoken, sweet guy that there is. He's got that sunshine look. Every single time he does anything, I go, sunshine, But he's so different when he's playing the game. And honestly, he had a career year last year. I mean, he was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. The 2 interceptions that he had were pick sixes. Career high 11.5 sacks. I feel like this is a no-brainer for the Vikings. He was so impactful and crucial to the defense that they had. And just that free agency signing class that they had last season was crazy. So you might as well keep a guy like that around. Dallas Turner, I feel like, was frustrated by the depth at his position last year. And I think he's going to have to be patient and just take what he can from these veterans, because if there's anybody he should be emulating his game after, it's the guys that are ahead of him on the depth chart. And I think that it could only benefit him to be patient and learn from those guys. So win-win all around. I think signing Andrew Van Ginkel, like I said, no-brainer. Duh. You want that guy back.
I now would implore people to let's not use this. If Turner plays sparingly this year, doesn't do a lot, let's not use this as an indictment of Kwesi for signing unbelievable free agents. Right? It's not
Dallas Turner or Kwesi's fault that there's so much depth, great depth at that position.
That Kwesi is responsible for bringing in, right? Like, he's part of that. So let's have a nuanced conversation when guys get blocked out from playing. It's not necessarily because they're busts. It's because Kwesi did a really good job in free agency.
Yep.
That's a testament to everybody on the staff. One very short pause, and then we revisit our draft over-unders from last week, and then we wrap the show on the Minnesota Football Party. All right. Over-unders that we selected last week prior to the draft. I said over-under 6.5 picks. Went under. Only 5 picks, Ron. Were you surprised Kwesi did not increase the number of selections more with trades?
I can't remember if I even said over or under. I should have wrote it down.
I think you said under. Pretty sure
I thought I said under. No, I'm not surprised, but I kind of was thinking he would get to 7, but I was like, it's super hard to do it. So I think I said either 5 or 6 picks, but like I'm not totally surprised, because the problem is, what did they need? And I think that's what we all kept saying. He did a great job of free agency.
Yeah, no doubt. Julia, surprised? No more trades?
No, I think I said under at 5.
Yeah, I think you did too. I think I went over. I think I was really bad at these over-unders. I also said that they would not acquire any quarterbacks. I said under. I said, no, they're going to go with Rippon and a veteran, and the veteran's going to come in free agency. Well, they added 2. They added Sam Howell, and they added Max Brosmer, Ron's guy, who that also hit the over on our Gophers over-under. The Vikings got a Gopher in the form of Max Brosmer. Do you, Ron, do you see him as practice squad this year? Do you think he's part of the organization?
Yeah, I think practice squad. I don't know if he'll do well in preseason enough for another team to pick him up, but I could see, like I said, I called that one too, which is funny. I was just going off the PJ Fleck, Josh McCown conversations that I stood by and listened to, and so I'm like, yeah, I could easily see Josh McCown picking up Max Brosmer because he looked at me. He's like, man, that guy can spin it. And I was like, yeah, he can throw. I was like, I watched him in the game. He has a quick trigger and he gets the ball to the spot. So as far as a practice squad guy and then maybe a potential backup 2-3 years from now, like, I think Max has a shot. He has a better shot than what's his name, Tanner Morgan. Like he's built better, he throws better, he has a quicker release.
Yeah, I mean, Julia, I felt like watching the Gophers last year. As the season progressed, I thought, this Brosmer guy, he does a lot of things that you need to do at the pro level. So I'm not surprised that he would end up with an organization. The question is, does he get opportunities? Like, does he get opportunities to play in the preseason? Does he get opportunities to show what he can do in practice? They don't always roll with 4 quarterbacks, in training camp. So we'll see. We'll see if he makes it to that point, but I'm really excited to watch him.
Yeah, I think he's really talented. I think as you watched him progress over the season this fall is when you really saw him grow, and also just growing as a leader and a person too. He's so much more vocal than he was when he first got there. And I think that that's something that, when you have a head coach who was a former quarterback and then your quarterback's coach is a guy like Josh McCown, like they appreciate that too, just having a voice like that in their quarterback room too. So I'm a big fan of Max. I think that he takes instruction really well. And I think he's also just got like an incredible work ethic. If you heard about the guy's like game day routine, it was insane. He's a little bit of a psychopath about his work ethic in a good way, which is what you want when it comes to, a professional athlete as it is. But I will just say, like, excited for him. I'm glad that he got picked up and glad he got picked up by the Vikings too. I think that it was a great move.
And we all took over on my 1.5 lineman prop. Offensive or defensive lineman, they took 2. They took Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. They took Donovan Jackson. We all had the over on that. Those were our over-unders. And that's our show for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Luke Braun, Luke Inman, and Arif Hassan. Thanks a lot for watching, for listening. Hey, subscribe at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Get us to 10,000 subscribers, and make sure to check out Ron Johnson and Kobe King, along with his brother, Kalen, next Tuesday on the Ron Johnson Show. Excellent, excellent stuff. Thank you, Julia. Check her out on Care 11 and watch Reggie tonight in L.A. as the Timberwolves go for the gentleman's sweep. That's all for now on the Minnesota Football Party.